and welcome to Soul Symbols. My name is Shelley. I'm a writer, an astrologer, and a card reader, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel. Happy Tuesday. It is How to Tarot Tuesday, and what that is it's a series here on my channel where every week we discuss one of the 78 card tarot. The beginning of the video is dedicated to talking about the symbolism in the card. And what I do is I go ahead and pull out 3 decks. The first deck is always the Rider-Waite-Smith. The second and third decks are 2 other variations of the card that we're talking about. And I choose the decks that I think best represent the card that we're discussing. After we talk about the symbolism, you, the viewer, can choose your own deck. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and pull a spread to see how that card manifests in your life. If you ever want to jump straight to your reading, the timestamps are listed in the description box below, as are the names and authors of the decks and the other materials that I use. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. Just to let you know, with this read, I am gonna, when we get to the reading part, I am gonna add some extra story dice just to kind of give some additional information. I throw cards every single day for myself, and I had a lot of fun with these lately. And since we use charms in our weekly energy reading, I thought it would be fun to kind of add to the How to Tarot this week. Now, today we are talking about another really great card. We are talking about the Three of Pentacles. The Three of Pentacles is a very industrious card. I always smile when I see it. I know I say that about a lot of the cards that we discuss, but this one just always brings such a sense of camaraderie, right? Because what you see is, with the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, you see what looks like a church or some kind of place of worship. And at the top, you see the 3 pentacles as part of the foundation, as part of the fixture of the wall. And then you see a man who's kind of standing on a stool, and he looks like he's holding something out. It almost looks like a cup, right? And he looks like a artisan or somebody who's a craftsman. The other 2 persons that he's speaking with, one kind of looks like a friar, and the other person is kind of, wearing a cloak that looks like they are making some kind of request of the person, right? In their hand, they have some kind of map or some kind of instructions. And it looks like the 3 are kind of conversing about, some kind of projects that they need done. Now, because the pentacles are real world, the pentacle represents things that you value or things that are a part of the material, physical world. The Three of Pentacles really does, it really points to it being a work collaboration. What it does is, first and foremost, it means working as a team. And you see 3 people there, and it just usually means that you're functioning as a unit, you're collaborating with other people, right? So the main thing is that it usually means that you're working on some kind of project with others, or that what you're inquiring about requires some kind of teamwork. Now, the other thing is that when you look at it, it's like, with there being somebody who looks like a craftsman and another person who looks like they're requesting that work be done. I look at this card, and I think a lot about, like, if you have to, you put a bid on something. If you're doing home improvement, which is a physical thing, building a house. It also could be like, maybe, I mentioned in my deck review how my table that I use, it was created by my great-grandfather, and it actually needs to be refinished, and contacting somebody who specializes in antique refinishing. I kind of think of Three of Pentacles with that, because it's me making a request from someone, or me putting specifications out. There's like a communication. What kind of work do you need done? In that same vein, it's talking about a job that you really need assistance with. Like, it's not something that you would be able to do by yourself. But, in that vein, it is about kind of, calling someone or having kind of an exchange on how to handle the project. In that same vein, it means a lot of it speaks a lot about skills. It speaks of either having a skill or not so much developing a skill, but approaching somebody for their knowledge of what they do. The other thing is that it could be highlighting a skill that you have. Maybe someone's coming to you and requesting that you do some kind of job. Also, maybe you're being acknowledged for some kind of skill that you do. Isn't it funny how many people have kind of day jobs and maybe they do things on the weekends? Maybe you build furniture, maybe you crochet, or, whatever hobby you do. Maybe you create pottery, and someone hears that hears about your talent and says, hey, can you do this job for me? It could be a side job. We just talked about the Two of Pentacles. If you see the Three of Pentacles next to the two, it can really mean that maybe you do something in your off time, which adds, as a separate form of income. And with the map in the hand, it definitely looks like some kind of blueprint for something. So a lot of times it can also, it usually means that there's some kind of planning going on, right? The other thing that I kind of think of is that it tends to mean some kind of plan that goes in steps or phases, right? So again, in the work vein, it can also be some kind of project that kind of goes in parts. The other thing is that maybe you have different teams that handle different things. So, if there's some kind of merger or something going on at work, maybe you're opening up a new division and you really have to kind of roll things out in a planned way. Maybe there's something at work where you have to communicate with different teams or different people from different areas of your work to make sure that something is done right. I know I have a family member his job is to order parts. So maybe it's something like that, again, home improvement or something in your work where you have to make sure that you get the right parts for the job, and it requires kind of checking and double checking. That is one thing that I think of when I see the Three of Pentacles. Is I think it's also, Pentacles being practicality. I do also see a lot of fact checking. Like, if you take a step, you go back and double check that step to make sure everything, that the part is right, and that, that you are progressing, that, the communication took place with the person who handles that step, and it's progressing as in tandem and as in collaboration. Now, the other thing that I see is that it usually is a sign of preparation. Again, sometimes this can be the planning in the sense that you really want to mark out how you're going to do this. And also with preparation, sometimes it can be a little bit of troubleshooting. Maybe you can see this card next to something where maybe something went wrong initially and it needs to be fixed, and that's no problem. But what I like to think of is when I see this card, especially the Rider-Waite, I kind of think of being proactive versus reactive, meaning that you want to make sure that everything is, ready to go and is going to be done well. And the other thing that I like to think of is, it speaks also very much of, achieving more than what's anticipated. Like, it really is knowing that this job's going to be done well because, it's almost like having a dream team. That's the other thing I think of, is having all the right people working on this project, and there's kind of a sense of excitement that it's really going to turn out well and quality. Now, the second deck that I went with is really exciting. I love this depiction, and this is the Spacious Tarot. And the beautiful thing about the Spacious Tarot is you see three trees, and you see the roots of the trees, right? And at the bottom of the roots, you see the Three Pentacles. And what I think is lovely about this, and what it is that what I think is beautiful about this is that this deck is very natural. There's no humans in it except for death. And what I think is amazing about that is that the depiction of it, tree roots actually quote unquote have a language. They speak to one another. And the way that they do that, and you can actually, there's a great video here on YouTube by Ted Ed that's called the Secret Language of Trees. And if you ever get a chance to check it out, it's really, I think of that every single time I see this card. And what it is that it's not that the roots themselves speak to each other, but there is a symbiosis, where there's a symbiotic relationship. And what that is that when, like even certain sharks, there are types of algae eater kind of fish that what they do is they sit on the shark's belly and they eat the bad algae off of them. And so what it is it's a symbiotic relationship. The shark won't eat the algae eaters, and the algae eaters keep the sharks clean, right? If this makes any sense. But the Three of Pentacles, the tree roots have the same symbiotic relationship with fungus. There's a fungus that's underneath the ground, and what it is because it's underneath the ground, it cannot get food as readily as trees can. And what it is trees, because especially older trees are so tall, the leaves at the top of the tree take in all the sunlight, and the sunlight converts it into sugars, right? And the photosynthesis turns, it does what it does with chlorophyll, and it brings the sugars down through the tree into the tree roots. And what the trees will do is they'll share the sugars because they can't use all of it. Sometimes it produces more sugar than it needs. So what it'll do is it will share the sugar with fungus that are in the tree roots. And the fungus, in exchange, will transport the sugar to the roots of other smaller trees. Some of these trees are even so small that they can't reach the sunlight the way that the tall trees can, right? They're in the shade. So the fungus on the roots serves two purposes. It not only helps the older trees feed the younger trees, but it also carries messages from the older trees. Like if the older tree is, maybe there was a bad locust infestation, or maybe something happened, and the tree isn't getting as much, photosynthesis as it did before. Maybe there was a tree fire or something like that. The fungus, because it jumps from tree root to tree root, it transmutes that information to the other trees. So trees, almost like in a familial unit, can know if one tree is affected, or so it almost speaks like a language. So I know that's a very long explanation, but that's the beauty. That's what I think of when you think of Three of Pentacles, because remember, we talked about working like a unit, right? Communicating, right? So there's a symbiosis. So it is, one tree helping another to keep everything in balance. So that's a really important meaning in the Three of Pentacles, is that it's sharing with others and having you all win, right? The other thing is that it's a very big, even though it's not a swords card, it's a very big communication card, because it just like the fungus communicates whether or not one tree is sick or not. It also carries, if one tree is really thriving, it distributes the excess, so all trees, all of the trees in their group survive. So that's another really big meaning of the Three of Pentacles, is that when you all work together, it's sharing the skills or sharing the abundance of one in order to get a community, or to get for the benefit of all. Now, the other meaning is that, it's sometimes it really does mean staying on a schedule. The other thing about this is that, anytime you're really good at something, there's kind of a regime to it. There's a, when I see the Three of Pentacles, in a personal reading, so if you see this card around another card that is talking more about you individually, like maybe you'll see the Three of Pentacles next to the Nine of Pentacles, which is a very independent card. It's, not really working in a team. It can mean that you're just really good at what you do. It could mean that you had a really good day, day at work. It could really, like if you see this next to the Six of Wands, it can mean that you're getting a lot of positive accolades at work because you are good. You're so good. Maybe you go into work and you just knock it out. Like, you know who to talk to. You know how to get, messy bun, getting things done, So even though you see this, it does talk a lot about just being very competent at what you do and, being a team player. The other thing that it tells me is that it can really mean that maybe you help other people in what you do. Like you know exactly what to do, when to do it, and that capability, that competency really aids other people. It can also mean that you work in a service industry, where you really know how to take care of other people. The other thing is that it can mean that, it can mean craftsmanship and doing the job the right way. If you see this card next to maybe the Eight of Pentacles, it can really mean that you're honing a craft. The other thing is that it can mean, in a school sense, it can mean that you're getting really good grades at school, that you're really getting it, like you learn things very well. And it's, the other thing is that maybe you're helping others. Maybe if you tutor, it can be the sign of a tutor or someone who's helping other people learn. It can also mean that you're progressing. It can mean that maybe you're learning a new job and you're learning it really quick. You're kind of on a fast track. It also means that if you are starting a project, it can mean that you're just really off to a really good start. Now the other thing is the last card that I went with is from the new deck, and I actually did a deck review for this, which is the Starseeker Tarot. And I think this is really beautiful too, because here you see 3 pairs of hands, and you see a pentacle that's broken into 3 pieces. And I just thought this imagery was beautiful because just actually all 3 of these, I mean, there's such different interpretations, but I love the fact that what it's showing is it's showing 3 different people, but in their hands are 3 different parts of an ace, right? If those 3 people come together and bring their piece, their part, you can have a solid beginning, right? Because what's the Ace of Pentacles? Ace of Pentacles, we just had a tarot on. It definitely just means that, together you can, what's the saying? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's what I think of, is that the other thing is that pentacles are not very fast moving energy. It's almost kind of like turtle in the hair. But that's the last meaning that I think of, is that this is not, and also with the tree roots, it's not a fast message. Again, it's not like wands or swords where it's just, lightning quick. But it is pentacles in the fact that it's steady, it's sturdy, it will last, what you're doing will last, stand the test of time. And so what this tells me is with the 3 pieces is it means that together, even though it would take collaboration, it's a very solid start, and it's a very firm foundation. So if you saw like this 3 of Pentacles next to, maybe you're starting a project with your family, maybe you're starting a project with your friends, if you see that is so positive, because it's telling you, okay, if you work together with others, yes, it does take more effort to work together with others, but putting your 3 pieces together will give you an ace. It'll give you something, very, very, very tangible results. Now, when it comes to, it can also mean that a promotion is possible. If you're a leader, like if you see this next to, if you see the 3 of Pentacles next to like a king or even an emperor, it would really be kind of a pat on the back saying that you are running your unit well, like you're a well-oiled machine, right? Like that you're a good manager. And that, and it can really be any of the suits. It just, if it's like the King of Wands, it could mean that you run your team with a lot of enthusiasm, like you keep people motivated. If it's the King of Swords, it can mean that you understand the workings. You're very communicative, and you understand how to get things productive using your words, and so forth. If you're the King of Cups, it could be that you have a lot of empathy, and that you're just, if and it really is flexible depending on the type of work that you do. Now, the other thing is that it can be, a sense of an accomplishment. And, it can be sometimes a little bit, it can be also, I kind of get it as a little bit of a showing off card, but not in a bad way, just because the person is kind of standing on kind of a pedestal there. I think it's almost, with the minors, I almost look at it, it's not as big as the Six of Wands. It's not like you riding down the street in a parade, but I kind of see the Three of Pentacles as being someone who, you having a moment where someone noticed your craft and said, wow, that's really cool, right? It's just kind of a smaller thing where someone said, wow, that turned out really great, Now, when it comes to people, it really means really industrious people, someone who works really hard. It can mean a very talented person. It can also mean someone who works well in a group, like you are a team player. And again, with these three parts, you work better. There are some folks who work better in a team than by themselves. They prefer that, right? So if you're asking about a person, maybe you're inquiring about an employee that you want to help motivate. If you see the Three of Pentacles, that might be someone who likes to work in a team more than, separate. The other thing is that it can be someone who has to be very diligent in what they do. Like maybe you have some kind of craft that requires attention to detail. If this is next to a wands card, it could be a hobby that's like that. Maybe you do woodworking, or you do wood carving, or you fix watches where you have to. I have a really sweet friend who paints miniatures, and I couldn't imagine. You probably have to put on little microscopic glasses and with a little paintbrush. So it can be a very kind of minute kind of work. And then the last thing that it means is that it definitely means somebody who's a little bit of a perfectionist too, right? It could definitely mean someone who really makes sure that every detail is covered. And also, if you see this next to an Emperor card, it can be a CEO who has to manage almost like a hierarchy. He almost has to manage several different divisions, and he has to make sure everybody's on the same page. But also that perfectionism can be just that, again, that double checking and checking to make sure that everything is going as it should. Now, the Three of Pentacles in reverse. This would be a situation where the first thing that comes to mind is kind of a lack of cooperation, right? Maybe you have that week where, that things are just not gelling, right? Maybe you have several different areas and something went wrong. This is kind of, that's the Three of Pentacles in reverse is definitely my wrench in the works, the spanner and the gears kind of card. It usually kind of means that there's some kind of problem that rose. And usually the problem arose from and this isn't to put the blame on anyone, but the fact that you have one person and then two persons. When you see it in the reverse, it usually means that, again, maybe if there were several teams involved, maybe something went wrong with one of the teams, and it doesn't necessarily have to be anyone's fault, but something went wrong and it kind of affected the rest of the circle, so to speak. It can be a lackluster performance. Maybe you screwed up and you feel singled out. If this is next to a Cups card, because it can also just be your perception, right? It doesn't mean that it's the truth. You know how anytime you make a mistake and you're normally a real perfectionist, you make one mistake and you start blaming yourself. So sometimes it can be that just up in your head kind of thing. You don't mess up often, but the moment you do, you really feel like you did something horrible. It can be a little bit of guilt. It can be a guilt card if you see this next to maybe the Nine of Swords. The other thing is that it can be job dissatisfaction. It can be you just not wanting to do what you're doing, or maybe what's being asked of you is not what you really want to do. The fact that there's several people involved, it usually would mean that maybe there's some kind of, some jobs evolve. There's sometimes maybe you're asked to do something that you don't normally do and you're not really happy with it. So it can be a temporary thing. But again, maybe you were assigned some kind of task and you're like, I don't think I want to do this forever. Just those kind of things. It can also be, you not being able to say no to something. Like, maybe you're being asked to do something and you really don't want to do it, but you keep saying yes because you feel obligated, because you feel like it would reflect poorly. The other thing is that with this Three of Pentacles, in reverse, it can also mean, just like we talked about a spanner being in the works, it can be that one department or one person at work is making you miserable. Again, if one of the trees is sick and it starts to affect the others. So if you're a boss, it could be that, this could be someone who's causing kind of problems. If you're looking at it from like a team perspective, maybe there's one bad apple or someone who's really stirring up crap. It can also be that maybe again, you trying to motivate someone, maybe you have a really good employee and all of a sudden they're acting out of sorts, or they seem unhappy and you don't know how to motivate them. Maybe something's going on with them. So in a read, it could be alerting you. It could be saying, okay, there's somebody is, one of your pentacles is not up to par. You might want to check in with them, see what's going on. It can also, in that same vein, be someone who's kind of goofing off, right? Because, like, if you see this card, if one person doesn't bring their pentacle, you don't get, you get two-thirds of a pentacle, right? So in that span, and again, from either you being in the group or, from a manager perspective, you could feel like someone's not pulling their weight. You can feel like somebody's, the other thing is that it can be where one person is getting credit for participating. So like if you're in school and how you have those group projects and someone's farting around and you're doing, you and the other kid are, doing all the work to get the project done, right? You could kind of be feeling that kind of energy, like this person's going to go ahead, they're going to get credit for 1/3 of a pentacle, but we did the work. The other thing is it can be delays. Again, where you might see this a little bit more with what's going on with the virus. There can be delays in production because of, one factory being, on having to take special precautions. Sometimes it can be disappointment, or that if you're working in some kind of group, and this can also be a friend group, maybe it could be here on social media, it could be something that you do where you really are relying on a friend to be there. Maybe you had some kind of group trip and someone said, oh, okay, I'll bring the chips, and then they backed out at the last minute. It can kind of be that feeling. The other thing is that it can just be a real poor effort, like somebody's just they're not up to snuff, they're not bringing, what it is. Now, the other thing is that it can sometimes be inexperience. Sometimes you'll see the Three of Pentacles in reverse. If maybe you had this golden team and maybe one person retired, and then you have someone new that kind of needs to be brought up to speed, and it's going to take them a little bit of time. So sometimes the Three of Pentacles can be an indicator of training, or that someone is going to be a little bit slower before they really get back to par. It could just be inadequate skills, or lack of knowledge. So surrounding cards might be pointing to where you can help this person learn. It can be a little bit of a sign of bullying sometimes, because if you're unhappy in school, like if you don't feel like participating in school, so if you see this next to a page card, or if you see this next to something that might look like a bully card, you might want to check in to make sure, to see if there's not something that might be pointing to something going on. Also, it can be a lack of respect. Sometimes you can feel like you're doing your part, but you're not getting, like you're getting called out, or somebody is just... The other thing is that it can be someone in a team that's making your job harder. So not even, not even slacking, but intentionally trying to give you work to do. And the other thing that it can be is it can be perfectionism in an extreme where you really are maybe one person in your team is absolutely obsessed with being the best or obsessed with recognition or approval. Maybe somebody else in the team is pushing you harder saying, well, no, we don't want just an A, we want an A++. Sometimes that can show up as somebody, like, the other thing that I've seen with is that sometimes in school there's a lot of pressure for students to be good at every subject. Like, I've seen that before. Like, sometimes when you're tutoring somebody, they're a math and science person, but their parents or the expectation is that they have straight A's in English and art, even though that's not really their forte. That can be kind of what a Three of Pentacles in reverse as well, because it's kind of pushing to be the best, or someone coming to you because they are not it's not allowed for them to get anything less than an A. But whether it's in and in that sense it's kind of like, it can also mean someone who's a little bit of a social climber. That is one last thing. When you see the Three of Pentacles in reverse, it can be someone who's really trying to climb the ranks at work. So if you see this next to kind of a card that means speed, maybe the Knight of Wands, the Knight of Wands, or the Eight of Wands, it can mean someone who's trying to climb the ranks super fast. So they're pushing, okay, let me take this job, and then so I can just hop up to the next rung of being promoted. But whether it's in the upright or the reverse, you can see that it holds a lot of meaning. Sorry. And but I love the camaraderie and the collaboration, and just the joint, that joint effort means joint reward of the Three of Pentacles. But so now that we've completed the How to Tarot part, let's go ahead and see, how does the Three of Pentacles manifest in your life? The first deck we have is always the Rider-Waite-Smith, and with it we have a beautiful sunstone. The second deck is the lovely Spacious Tarot with, I'm almost positive this is an aquamarine. And then the third deck is my newest deck, which is the Starseeker Tarot, and with it I have the first ever stone I ever bought. It's the amethyst, and what's lovely about this deck is that all of the wands have crystals that look just like this at the end. So I'm really love that deck. But I will go ahead and let you choose. Please choose from your intuition if you like the art, if you like the stone, or the timestamp. If you need more time, please pause the video, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, we're back. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get started with the Rider-Waite-Smith. And let's go ahead and see, how does the Three of Pentacles manifest in your life? And don't forget, I mentioned earlier, I'm going to go ahead and just throw a few story dice. This is Rory story dice, and all the names are in the description box. But I've been having fun with, again, I throw cards every day for myself, so I've really enjoyed adding to the read with either dice or charms. So we'll do something special. Are we in focus? Yes. Okay. So, how does the Three of Pentacles manifest in your life? I love the traditional Rider-Waite of this. It has so much symbolism. Very traditional. Three of Pentacles. How does the Three of Pentacles manifest in your life? Okay, we'll go with that. Ooh. And then currently, okay, these two are sticking out. And then the future. Ooh, that just popped right out. Please clarify the Queen of Wands, please. One card to clarify. Okay, I'm not really getting it, but let's see. All right, we'll get our story dice. Please clarify. Wow, guys. Okay, so the way that the Three of Pentacles is manifesting in your life is that um, in the past, you can be a man or a woman watching this read and be in the energy. We have two queens here. We have two queens, and what it is that when you're in a queenly energy, you're in a very nurturing, it's almost like it's the feminine manifestation of that element. And you have the pentacles here. So in the past, you've got the Queen of Pentacles, which is what it is she's a very practical queen, right? She has she's the one who takes care of, she nurtures in a very physical way, meaning that, she's kind of the person that makes sure that you have all of the necessities for life that you need, that that the electric bill is paid, that she cooks your favorite food. It's almost like all the physical comforts she's aware of. The other thing is that she's very practical when it comes to her own needs as well. Like, this is someone who understands her own body, and she understands the value of having what you need financially, right? And so it's not so much a materialistic, it's not that kind of energy. It's more of, it's in the past, it's more about what was important to you is that you feel very established, like, again, that you have the roof over your head, that you always have enough to cover your rent, to cover your electricity, that that you don't have to scrimp to enjoy the good things in life. So you've always had that energy from the time that you were young. You really had it where you were set up where you were good at nurturing. And what I'm seeing here is in the present, right under your Three of Pentacles, is that we are seeing a card. You got the Chariot, right? And the Chariot is he's the one who channels. He directs the two sphinxes to pull his chariot in one direction. So it's a card of victory, and it's a card of going places too, right? Now the thing is that you have two horses, you have two sphinx, and you have underneath it, you have the Two of Wands. And the Two of Wands is about planning. These two cards, the Three of Pentacles and the Two of Wands, are about planning, right? You're making a choice, right? You're deciding where you want to go. Now, what might be happening is that the thing is, in the past, if you are a man watching this video, it is quite possible that in the past you had your eye on somebody that was very financially stable. Maybe you had your eye on a lady who was very affluent. She would be someone who takes good care of herself. Like, she would be someone who is very accomplished, but she's self-sufficient, right? She really doesn't need any help financially. So what may have happened is that in the past you might have had your eye on this person, and this is really where you wanted to go. You see the wand is kind of on her side, right? You see the world with this person. And what you might have done is, because this is a Queen of Pentacles type, you may have really wanted to impress her. Like, you would have wanted to be enough to sustain this relationship, right? So maybe you did start working hard at work, and you were forging ahead, because you see how he has the world in his hand, right? I think you really wanted to, build that, you wanted to have enough. I'm almost getting kind of like a feeling as if you really did want to have a position that both made enough money, but also gave you the chariot. The Chariot is also about kind of a victory in a sense of looking good, right? Again, getting the accolades of being accomplished at what you do. You wanted to be accomplished. And But if you're a woman in this energy, what happened was in the past, you've always been self-sufficient, right? You've always been self-sufficient, and you almost want to continue that energy. You want to go on to the next. It's almost like you want to continue that lifestyle. You want to stay in your affluence. You always want to have enough, right? And it's, I think, if you want to maintain your status, you want to maintain your stability, because that's the other thing. Pentacles are stability. It's almost like, it's almost like when you change jobs and you're like, okay, I really can't, I want to do something new that's exciting, but I don't want to be paid less than what I am. I'm going to stay in my, in my bracket of being able to support myself, to have to have a comfortable lifestyle. And now what it is I do see that some kind of collaboration right now, some kind of job or some whatever you're participating with is really giving you that. It's not only giving you a sense of accomplishment, it's making you feel very good at what you do. Like, I think that I think you are seen as somebody, like an artisan in your field, right? You're good at what you do, and you are still making strides with it, though. I feel like you are growing. You're moving within the confines of your career. But you are making a lot of plans. It's almost like you're planning, because this also goes from the Two of Wands. It's rooted in the Two of Wands to the Chariot, which is full speed ahead, and then the Three of Pentacles. So it's going 2 to 3. So the other thing that I kind of see here is that as a woman, I think you are really kind of, you not only want to keep practical and stable, but you almost want to do something a little bit more creative in your job, right? It isn't that you don't love what you do. It's just, if your job is a little bit more traditional, where it's kind of bean counting and it doesn't really give you a whole lot of creative expression, I think you kind of want to do something more where it really engages you, right? And it doesn't have to be anything, changes in work doesn't necessarily have to mean, well, I'm quitting my job as an accountant and I'm going to go become a movie star, right? No. But it can mean that the thing that I'm kind of seeing is that maybe you got some kind of promotion at work that's giving you a new position that is more creative. It gives you a more freedom of expression in the field that you are already in, right? And it's keeping you in the same income bracket. It's not taking away from your stability. But you're really excited about it. You feel victorious with it. This is all very strong. The other thing that I get is that what you're doing is you're not only moving ahead really fast, but I think that you like the company that you're in, right? You like who you work with, and you like what you do. You enjoy what you do, right? But you are growing. And then in the future, this is great, guys, because you got the Queen of Wands. So I really see that, in the future, you're going to go from, you're really going to shine in what you do, right? I think whatever you're doing now is going to give you a whole lot of confidence. That's the other thing with the Chariot and the Queen of Wands. I think that what you're learning, and, I really am getting kind of a promotion kind of feeling. I think that you're kind of going from one stage of, kind of being practical at what you do and staying, stable, to learning new things, being very capable at that, really moving up quickly. And, you have plans. And the thing because these are wands as well, it just kind of tells me that the direction that you're going, you're really going to shine. You're going to feel a lot more, you're going to still be stable financially, but I feel like you're going to look like a leader. That's the other thing with these two cards too, is that you're a very strong leader. The other thing that this might also mean is that whatever work that you're doing now, you're moving ahead, that you might get some kind of promotion where people really look up to you. Like, the other thing is that I'm kind of getting, like, you might be going from kind of a back office position to a position where you get seen more. Because the Queen of Pentacles really she's about the details, right? Like, and this is a detail-oriented card. But the Queen of Wands, she, you know how sometimes you get those positions where you maybe you go from being a regular branch manager to being like a regional manager, right? And the regionals, they go to, they go to the boardroom, they go to these conferences. Maybe it's something like that. You're kind of going from more of a bean counting, more back office, not in the limelight as much, to really showing how capable you are and getting a promotion that really kind of gives you a job that has more exposure. The other thing that I'm seeing is that in the future, it isn't that you don't dress really well. It's just the Queen of Pentacles is more about function. She'll wear the suits that are comfortable and are quality. But the Queen of Wands is definitely about dressing to impress. So in the future, you might have kind of a job where you're seen more. So you might spend a little bit more money on the type of suits or uniform that makes you look really good. Not that you didn't look good before, but you're going to be like, okay, because the Queen of Wands is the one who walks in the room and, makes you look. Now, the two dice that you got is you got this guy who looks like a ball. It kind of looks like dropping the ball. And then you got someone who's kind of sleeping, right? And I know this sounds so strange. It sounds so weird. But I almost get, what it is that what I'm kind of seeing is that the other interpretation that I kind of got with this, because if you can kind of see this, the past is the Queen of Pentacles, and remember how we said the wand is kind of on her side? You're kind of looking at her like she's the world. And then in the future, the wand, and also this being wands, the wands that you're kind of not kind of have your back to is the future, right? So I'll be honest, guys. If you are a guy watching this, and I do kind of have to just read it this way, is that you might be, if you are if you are a man who's dating, I am kind of reading this as maybe in the past you really had your eye on somebody and you were trying to impress them by being good at what you do. Like you were like, okay, look at the money I make, look at my position at work. And you do accomplish that, right? Like you shine at work, you go full speed ahead because, you're looking at her like, okay, I'm coming for you with the world. But what I see is that the wand, the other wand that you have your back to, because the Queen of Wands is in the future position, you're almost dropping the ball. You're sleeping on the job, right? What that kind of tells me is that maybe you... so this is another interpretation, and if it doesn't resonate, you don't have to take it. But maybe you were really trying to impress somebody by making money to be with this other person, but this person isn't going to be the person that you end up with. In the future, there's going to be a different person who's a lot more like your temperament, and you almost don't even see it. It's like you don't see it coming. It almost kind of wakes you up because, she's in the future, but she's definitely going to catch your attention. You'll still have all of the accolades. You'll still have done all that work, but it's almost like a different situation propelled you to do this work, and then it benefits you with someone else in the future. But that's just another way to read it. It doesn't have to be you. Again, if you're in a feminine energy, I am getting it kind of more of you moving into a position, and, you just... you really being on your toes, right? I think the other thing is I'm kind of getting is that you almost have to keep your eye out. With this new position, it's going to be a different type of collaboration with others, and you're going to have to be in a different kind of energy to keep up with that. But wow, guys, that's really cool though. I enjoyed that reading. I think that's very different. So let's go ahead. We'll put your dice there. Now, the second deck, we've got the Spacious Tarot, And let's go ahead and see, how does the Three of Pentacles manifest in your life? Okay, this one's really trying to come out. Okay, wow, I'm going to take this one too because it was kind of popping out. And then the future. Wow, you guys got some powerful energies here. Okay, go ahead and get your dice. This was coming out in an angle. Okay, wow, guys, I'm definitely getting a story here. So, for your Three of Pentacles, and if you got a chance to watch the intro, you know, I talked about how this is a really wonderful card, how it talks about the symbiosis, you know, how the fungus at the roots transports not only nutrients to other trees, but it also kind of communicates. It gives kind of a status of how one tree is doing compared to the other. I really get the feeling... I really get the feeling as if presently you have, you're in an energy of cooperation with others. I really get the feeling as if both your home life and in your relationships, I think there might be people that you have to cooperate with. You know, the Three of Cups in the past, the Three of Cups is really kind of a celebration card. It's about like hanging with friends. It can also be it can be a little bit of a partier card, right? It can be someone, but a lot of times it usually just means celebration. It usually, because also it's 3 and 3, right? And Three of Cups is emotions. I think you're used to there always being someone else that you have to work with, right? I don't think that you're very used to, from the time that you were young, it really seems like, I'll be honest, when I'm taking your dice into account, I really think that your persona, because remember how we talked about how the Three of Pentacles also talks about how you're seen, you know, like your work ethic. That's the other thing, is your work ethic kind of plays into it. I think you're really, I think that you work hard and you play hard, but I also think that you have two sides to your personality. It's almost as if the persona that you project at work is different than what your friends see, but you like to keep it very professional at work. I also get the sense that you keep it very strictly professional at work because you're a very deep feeler, and I think it's almost as if, and we'll get to this when we get to your dice. Your dice is really playing into this. It's almost like you keep, it would be, it almost would be known, right? Like it's almost like there's undercurrents at work that I'm almost getting a little bit of, I'm not seeing any swords, so I don't think that this is a gossip card, but I think what happens is I think that you try to keep your personal life, because you work hard and you play hard. I think sometimes you try to separate the day you and the night you, right? And, you know, the work you and the family you. And I think that you do have some expectations. I think that you are part of a unit at work where other people really rely on you. I think also if you are not doing well or if you're hiding something, I think your colleagues will kind of pick up on it. Again, I'm getting that language of trees, you know, the symbiosis, the speaking. It's like, you know, I don't think that you can hide much, but I think you're good at putting on a good face. Now, in the past, you may have had a little bit more of a partier kind of vibe. Maybe you are someone who's a young adult who's starting to get into the real career focus time of your life. I do also think that in the past that maybe it is possible that maybe you actually got your job from affiliation to friends. And I do also think that maybe you know a lot of people at work, kind of offline, in the private sense. But this is the past, right? The other thing that I'm getting is that I think that you're trying to be less of that partier person. Like you're trying to not hang out with your coworkers casually. You're trying to keep a separation between those parts of your life. Now, directly under the Three of Pentacles, guys, wow, you got two major arcana, and you got some heavy hitters here. You got the Hanged One, which is the Hanged Man. And I really love this depiction because it's seeing a situation from a whole new perspective, right? And here, this is beautiful because normally the Hanged Man is the man hanging upside down. Here, this is the man on the moon, right? And doesn't that give you a perspective, right? You're looking at your home planet from a different place. So what that kind of tells me, and again, with the symbiosis, what that kind of tells me is that maybe you are doing things, you're on some kind of project for work that's making you feel separate. Remember how we talked about, separation of home and work? You feel like you're away from home, right? You feel like you're away from home, but you're doing your job, though, right? You're doing a really good job. You're cooperating with others at work, but cooperating with others at work is making you feel separate from yourself. Again, it's almost like you have a work persona and a home persona, and underneath that, you got the Wheel of Fortune. So I do think I love this wheel because it has the seasons. It has fall, summer, spring, winter. And what it is that you might be working on some kind of project that's going to take a little bit of time. Like you might know the time frame of this. And, it might take a year or more than 1 year. And again, I almost think I'm a huge fan of the Apollo missions, and last year was the 50th anniversary of the Apollo missions, and I swear to you, I have all the movies, I have all the documentaries, I have this wonderful book my friend gave me with all the pictures from the moon, and what I relate to is that those astronauts trained for years, they trained for decades before they actually stepped foot on the moon, right? And then when you actually step foot on the moon, that's kind of the culmination of the trip. But when you come back, the job isn't over, right? The job's not over just because you went to the moon and came back successfully. There's more that you have to do. But I am getting kind of the feeling like maybe I think that you're aware that your personal feelings get picked up. The other thing is that with the astronauts, I would highly suggest watching First Man with Ryan Gosling. If you have never seen that, it's about the Apollo missions. It's about what the team went through. And there are 3 astronauts there. I think that possibly your coworkers around you really rely on you, and like there is some kind of team, some kind of project you're working on, and it feels like a big project. It's like landing on the moon, but you're probably a little bit homesick, but you're in it for the long haul. I think you are probably close to the culmination of the project, but it is taking some time. And the other thing is that it's almost like this is fortuitous because it's fortunate because you've done the work, but what I see is, the Wheel of Fortune is luck turning in your favor, but what we're seeing here is we're seeing seasons, right? I'm really getting a sense like you signed on for something. You signed on for something, and you knew what you were getting into. You really did. But it required you to step up. It required you to be a part of a team. And your roots, you're rooted with that team. They can sense when you're in distress. You can sense when they're in distress. But you have to keep your professional face on, right? And the other thing is, underneath the Wheel of Fortune and the hanged one, you've got the Eight of Pentacles. That's you're honing a craft. That you're a worker bee, right? The other thing is, look at how many coins are there, right? I am also getting a feeling like maybe you're a team leader, where you might have sub projects, or you might have more than one. When you get back to Earth, there might be some other thing that you have to, it seems like I'm getting a little sense of I'm getting a sense of overwhelm from it for several different reasons. One is that you do have to you have to stay strong for your team. I really would suggest watching First Man, because it also talked about like the emotional stress that Neil Armstrong went through, because he had several personal things going on and he couldn't let that show, right? But he had to stay strong for the mission. He had to stay strong for his teammates. He had to stay strong for his country. And then, but you are doing a lot. You're working really hard. You're keeping your emotions out of the mix so they don't affect the rest of your team. You're feeling far away from home. You're probably a little homesick, even though that is a miraculous sight. And you do feel like you're doing a good job. You're doing what you set out to do, but it's taking time. You are seeing the boons of your work, but you know that you've committed for the long haul. Now, this came out across as an angle. So all this hard work, and you got the Two of Pentacles. And remember, we just had a tarot on the two last week. It's juggling, right? Work, play, juggling. Homesick, dedicated to the cause, juggling. The other thing that I'm kind of getting from this is that you probably are, right now, with the amount of work and the time, something about the time frame. I think you're well aware of where you are on the timeline of what you committed to, but you're having moments where I really get the feeling like, because this is so far behind you, I really do get the feeling as if maybe it's been all work and no play lately. But that was what was required. That's what's required of you, and you're trying to balance it more. I think you're trying to balance it more, but it's hard. I think there's a few moments where you have to, you might have to take those work emails on the weekend, and I think it's wearing on you. I do think maybe it could be related to world events where you don't have the opportunity to connect in person as much, or maybe, time with family or friends might be a little bit of a tricky balance. The other thing is, I feel like you might be feeling a little emotionally up and down, but all of this is positive, though. I think you're managing it. I just also, we talked about this, about how, how long do you have to juggle that? Because you can't do it forever, right? You can't do it forever. And definitely, if you're feeling any homesick feelings, you want to take care of your emotional health too. It's important to play. It's important to have fun. Now, the future looks really bright for you guys, because you got the Elder of Wands, you got the King of Wands. And look, you got fireworks. You got fireworks. And, remember how we talked about how the King of Wands, we did the How to Tarot not too long ago either. He is really the strong one. He really is kind of like, he is like that retired soldier. I really do get that, the feeling of the astronaut that came back home, right? You in the future, and it's not too far away. I think you are going to get a chance to celebrate all this hard work. And I think you're going to get a chance to kind of break away from the group mentality. I do kind of feel like you're almost going to want to party by yourself for a little while. I think I'm getting a strong feeling as if, because you work so hard, you might need a little bit of a timeout to just be in your own thoughts and not be answering anybody's questions, or juggling anything, or answering anything work related. But the other thing that I see is that I think you're going to get just this burst of excitement. The other thing is the King of Wands. he's the active king, right? I'm almost getting kind of not so much a retirement vibe, but again, it being the Three of Pentacles, I think that you will have accomplished your mission, like mission accomplished. And so what you're going to do is you're going to celebrate that. You're going to take a time, you're going to take a break, you're going to do the things that you put on the back burner. And also, I get this feeling as if it's going to put you in a position where you can take on new projects in the future, but it's going to be the projects that you want to do. That's the other thing that I'm kind of getting. It's like the King of Wands, he's different than the Knight. He doesn't have to jump at every opportunity that comes his way, but if he sees the project that he wants to do, he'll be like, oh yeah, that's mine. When he's the king who leans forward in his chair, right? He's ready. When he's ready to do something, he wants to do it. So I think whatever project this is, whatever you've, because it is also going from 2 to the 1 wand. So I do think that this is gonna leave you in a position where you have the ability to choose what projects you want to do when you want to do them, and it's going to leave you in that king position. So that's wonderful, guys. I really am getting kind of like a manager, some kind of like really, you're going to celebrate the position that you end with. Now, the 2 dice that you got is first off, you got the cane, and then you got the 2 masks, right? You got like almost like the theater masks. And first off, the cane really does, I think the cane is just playing into how hard you're working. I think you are feeling, I do think that sometimes, the cane also helps you walk, right? It assists you, right? And the Three of Pentacles is about assistance through people. So I don't think that you can do this job alone. And I think because you cannot do this job alone, that's what leans on the 3, is that you do, teamwork makes the dream work. Neil Armstrong did not get to the moon by himself. He had Aldrin. He had the person who's sitting in the module, right? There were 3 astronauts there that day. So the other thing is this could be collaboration with friends. But I do think that the amount of work and the amount the timeline, it's almost like the duration of how long you've had to work this hard is kind of making you feel like an old man. The other thing that we talked about is that the King of Wands, he's not, he's definitely a dynamic character, but he's a mature dynamic character, right? He's the king because he's, we talked about that, about how, he's jumped off the cliff and come back and been like, oh, damn, that hurt, the reason that he chooses his projects moving forwards is because he has already kind of been through the more active. He's almost kind of like the general who's already, been through, he's been on the forefront and come back, and that's why. So I do think that you are feeling probably a little bit like an old man or an old woman, but also it talks of assistance, right? You can't do this alone. It would be too much for you to do alone, and you're probably feeling it. You're. This also could mean that if what you do is physical, and you're really putting in long days, you might be feeling it a little bit. You might be suffering with a little bit of arthritis, coming home and putting that heat pack all over your body. You might be, the other thing is it might be speaking of, health. Mind your mental health, mind your physical health. And this is more physical too. Now, the 2 masks, again, I think that just plays into, I kind of read that two ways. I do think because the King of Wands is definitely more of an energetic person, he is, he's a physical person. I do think that you do probably, again, I think that's playing into keeping your work life separate from your private life. Maybe you are a little bit more of the fun going guy, but you don't want to show too much of that in your work life. Either that, or it is possible that in order to cooperate with people, and this is not a new concept, but sometimes you have to play into it. You have to handle the people around you in a certain way, and sometimes you do have to put on a certain mask or a certain persona, to get what you need to get done. And it isn't that you're trying to be false. It's just that, that's what every person has to do in order to keep camaraderie and keep flexible. You know, you might have team members that need to be spoken to a certain way, or that don't like a certain type of approach. So, you know, the other thing is that with the Two of Pentacles, I do think that you might be experiencing some highs and lows from this. I do think that I am getting a little bit of a homesick vibe, like you're not getting as much time to kind of play because it's been more work. But I do see right now you're in the home stretch. I think you are almost to the conclusion, but I do think that you do have to keep people happy, and you are starting to feel it. You're feeling it in your joints and in your play life. So, but I hope that makes sense, guys. And wow, I really enjoyed that reading. That one was a good one. All right. Last but not least, let's go ahead and the last deck, the Starseeker deck. I really love the fact that this coordinates so well with my quartz here, with my amethyst. Now, I've said before, and I said in the walkthrough, this is a flexible deck. It's not bendy. I don't want to misrepresent. It's not like it doesn't shuffle like the way some decks do, but it does, it does go together. So sometimes you do have to kind of, it takes a little bit of a bigger hand to hold the whole deck because it's got a thick core to it. All right, so deck number 3, how does the Three of Pentacles manifest in your life? Okay. Okay, and then currently, oh, thank you. And then future, please. Oh, thank you. Okay, do we have any, oh, we had one other flipper. Any clarifiers? The moon was kind of coming out a little bit. And she does have the moon at her feet. So, but the King of Pentacles wanted to flip. So let's go ahead and see here. Let's get the dice. We've been getting 2 for everyone, so 2 dice. Ooh, we got a spinner. We can see. Oh, okay. That's the second dice we got throughout here that talked about like being woken up, like waking up from sleeping. Okay, I wonder. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and see. So wow, we definitely got some energy here. So in the past, you got the 9 of Wands, and I think this is a really beautiful. It's somebody who has fought long and hard, right? You know, like she's wary, but she can't give up, right? She's come too far to give up, right? You know, she's crouched down, but she's not on her knees yet, you know, and you know you've won all those wands, and the root of it is the Fool. So I think in the past, I really get the feeling as if in the past, I really get the feeling like in the past I'm getting a sense as if you were really trying to go somewhere, right? Like I think you were trying to start either a new life or maybe a new job. You just really wanted things to start off. You had a very positive direction, but it's been a very long road. You know what I'm thinking is I'm almost thinking of the Lenormand when you get the cross. It's a journey of fate, right? Because the Fool is about knowing that the universe is going to catch you. The other thing that I see here is that you've come along. You know what I'm hearing? I'm hearing the expression, you've come a long way, baby. You've come a long way. I think that either in your job or just in your life, and this can be with family, it can be with whatever obligations that you have, I think that you've really had to cooperate with people, like in order to, again, in order to get that ace, you've really had to come together and cooperate with others. But in the beginning, in your past, I think you've really tried hard to do things by yourself. The other thing is that I'm getting a strong collaboration here. In the past, I think you've really tried to go it alone. And I do think that the universe has had your back, because the other thing that I'm seeing here is that in the Fool card, she has a snake wrapped around her arm. You can focus. And then there's a snake that's also wrapped around that staff, right? So it's almost like you started off on the Fool's journey, but you had a lot of challenges along the way, right? You had a lot of challenges along the way. So I don't think that life has been very easy, and I'm getting a very general kind of vibe. Again, maybe it's family related or work related. Maybe you've had to work really hard at work to make ends meet, or you've just had struggles in your life that were hard. And you started off your journey with the anticipation that everything is going to be okay, right? The other thing is that, the snake, especially in these two cards, it is about regeneration. It's about shedding one's skin, right? And the Fool is the 0, and the 9 is the last card before the 10. Like the 10 is the culmination, right? So I'm hearing you've come a long way, baby. You've come a long way. But what I'm also getting is that the Fool is, you see with all the suns and the rainbow, the universe has been there with you. I know, or your higher power, if you believe in God, if you believe in the universe. I think that you have not been alone. You have not been alone. I am definitely, I'm seeing in my head, I'm seeing the symbol of the cross from the Lenormand. And that means it's a karmic journey. It's a hard journey. But what it is that every single one of those battles, every single one of those rods, and actually you chose the stone. What's beautiful about this deck is that the top of each of the wands is a stone, and the top of the wand that she's holding is a purple stone. And look, guys, that's about healing, right? Purple is about the crown chakra. It's about coming through, right? So I think the universe has been there every step of the way. God has been there every step of the way. Whatever you've learned in the past has taught you a lot, and goodness knows it's always the lessons that kick your butt that always teach you the most, right? And I'm like, gee, thanks, but unfortunately it's true. Those life lessons are hard, but they transform you, right? And you're seeing that snake energy, they transform you. So in the past, you did have it hard. You have not had it easy up until this point. But presently, what I'm also seeing here is that in the past, I'm seeing a lot of individual energy. I'm seeing it's just, you are the one man fighting the fight. You're the Fool. The Fool is the person who's one person stepping off the cliff. But the present energy is the Three of Pentacles. So the Three of Pentacles, and again, this depiction shows 3 sets of hands, right? And one of those sets of hands are yours. One of those sets of hands are yours. So I am getting the sense that maybe you're having a turn of fate because you do have the opportunity of help. I do think it's with 2 other people. That could be family members. It could be maybe if you were single before and you started dating and maybe it was a single parent. So now it's 3, right? But I'm just getting this feeling like you've been alone and you've been on a long road. The universe has been there with you, but there's been hard lessons, and you have not given up the fight. You've fought to the end. And what it's offering you now is presently there's some kind of collaboration, there's some kind of cooperation with others, that by you bringing your piece, right? If you bring your piece, other people will bring their pieces, and together you can have a very solid foundation through teamwork. Now, underneath the 3, we've got the 7 of Pentacles. And what I think is great is, because remember how we talked about that one of these hands is yours, right? Look at her hands here, right? She has a set of hands. So one of your hands is there, and what it is the 7 of Pentacles is about slow movement, but it is about you starting to see the fruits of your labor, right? It's not fast, right? The other thing that you see is you see in the background, you see mountains, right? And mountains mean challenge, right? You can see she almost looks like she's the Nine of Wands looks like she's in the mountaintops, right? So you've gotten past your challenge, and I think that you are cooperating with others. It could be at work, but you've planted seeds, right? You've planted 7 pentacles, and they're not growing overnight, but they are growing, and you're watering them, right? So all of this work is not for nothing. It does feel like slow growth. Sometimes the 7 of Pentacles can be about, impatiently waiting. Like, okay, when is this going to come to fruition? And the other thing that it could be is that maybe you are working with others, and you're just waiting for this project to finish. You're kind of impatiently waiting, but it is growing. It's getting there, right? But I'm definitely seeing that this growth is going to be because of the cooperation and collaboration with you and other people. The other thing I think is interesting is when you actually look at the 7 on this card, it has 3 lines through it. If it'll focus, there we go. You see the 3 lines through the 7? It's funny, when I used to, when you write the number 7 and you put a line through it, my mom studied in Spain, like, in mainland Spain when she was young, and she always wrote her 7s that way. You write a 7 with 1 line. Here it has 3 lines, so I almost feel like the 3, it's pointing to that, like, and them both being pentacles. But if that makes sense to you, it also means hard work, right? Your collaboration with these other 2 people, it's hard work, but it's diligent work, and it is starting to grow. It hasn't come to fruition yet, but where you are presently is that it's growing. You're kind of eager for it to go faster, but it's not in a bad place. It's just moving along. Now the other thing is, the next card that you got Temperance. And that's a major arcana, and that's a really beautiful card. So is the Fool, by the way. So you got 2 majors in this. But the Temperance is balance. It's calibration, and again, I'm getting a universe vibe here, guys, because the angel of Temperance it's divine. It's divine balance, right? The other thing that I'm kind of the sense that I'm getting is that, going from hard times to more, slow progress kind of times. I think that the universe is making it balanced again, right? You've done the work, the universe, even though you have struggled, you were never alone. The other thing that I kind of think of with that is that, anytime you have that moment where you feel like you were about to cave, that you were about to give up, I feel like that snake was there with you. Like the universe was saying, don't give up. We're here with you. We're not going to let you fall. Because that's the other thing, is that the Fool is stepping off the cliff, and they know they're not going to fall. The Nine of Wands, she's refusing to fall. And I think it's the universe trying to give you strength at your weakest moment, because you're exhausted. You've been through a lot. But I think here, Temperance is balancing, it's not scales, but it's balancing 2 elements, right? And I do think that this is going to come to some kind of culmination on a full moon, because you see the full moon here. So this could be, something that's coming up. It could be a lunar cycle. Also, it could be a full moon in either Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn, because the King of Pentacles is a earth sign. But underneath the Temperance, you also see you have a King of Pentacles here. So what that kind of means, it kind of means 2 things. First off, you're kind of watering the seeds of something here, and the King of Pentacles is sitting on a grown tree, like a throne that's a grown tree, right? So, and he has a vine at his feet. So I do think that by balancing, the Temperance, this could mean that maybe if you were single in the past and you really did, maybe you had roommates or you had someone else that you collaborated with. I think in the future you're going to meet someone who's an earth sign that's really going to be, he's going to be your temperance. And not to say that a relationship is the solution, I'm just kind of reading this between the lines, is that it is very hard. It's very hard to be independent and not have kind of struggles if you are alone. So this could be the universe sending you someone. This could be a balancing with the King of Pentacles. Maybe, maybe in the past, you were not, you had some kind of, difference or, misunderstanding with this character. But the main message that I'm getting is I think this is really going to be your energy. Just because the King of Pentacles, what I love about this card is that usually the king is looking down at a golden pentacle, like all he cares about is money. Here are the pentacles floating above his head, and he has a book in his hand. So I really think that, and again, it being, kind of, the 7 going to the king, which is really the last card of the suit. I think this journey is just going to teach you so much, right? You've struggled and you've worked hard. You've really been kind of stripped down to your bare essence. You've cooperated and you've very painstakingly. The other thing is the Three of Pentacles is about diligent, action. You've painstakingly watered your 7 pentacles. I think that the future, and that's a very bright future, is that I think you are going to, because the King of Pentacles is the character in the 10 of Pentacles, right? So I think that you are going to be in the position, I think the universe is really working on your side to balance what's been going on. You've done your work. I'm almost seeing this as a very good karma, like, it's the boons of your labor. And it's gonna be balanced, right? It's the other thing is that with the fairness, the 3 things, I think if there's other people involved, no one is gonna get shortchanged. Everyone's gonna win. But your energy in particular is that you're gonna be very strong, like the roots of a tree. You're gonna be very strong. The other thing is that if you are supporting a family, if you have hands, if you have to cooperate with others, I think at the end of this experience, and this is the future and it's not too far away, I think you really are going to be in a strong position. And all that you went through, though, too, especially with that book, it taught you a lot, right? University of Real World, University of Life. But I love that Temperance card just because it really is. And I'm getting a sense that this culmination, this sense of accomplishment is going to come on a full moon. Possibly in a full moon in an earth sign. So possibly, what is it? Over July 4th, the full moon is in Capricorn. In November, the full moon is in Taurus. Or, full moon in Virgo would be more like February of 2021, if you want time frames. And then the last thing that you got is you got your dice here. And you see someone one of the dice looks like an alarm clock, and the other one looks like a magnifying glass. So what that kind of tells me, again, we talked about Three of Pentacles. What the expression I'm hearing is don't sleep on the job. Pay attention to details, which I think you're going to, because the 7 of Pentacles is scrutinizing. It's looking at those pentacles, seeing how they can grow. And the King of Pentacles, again, with that book in his hand, I really just think, don't sleep on the job. I think what it's telling you is that if you are part of a team, do your part. Because remember, we talked about that. 3 of Pentacles is about, everybody pitching in, especially in this card. And so yeah, don't wakey, don't sleep on the job. And the magnifying glass really talks about paying attention to details, right? Paying attention to details. Also, it kind of tells me that if there is some kind of equal share in things, just really kind of, analyze. You know, you don't have to pick apart anything, but you know, again, with the King of Pentacles, he's a very practical person. He would be able to know what was equal and fair, and the Temperance is definitely about balance too. So I think it's going to turn out really well, you know, but just, you know, do your part. Don't sleep on the job. Note the details, and you're going to really make it far. And you've already, again, you've come a long way, baby. You've earned it. Everything that comes from this culmination, you've earned 10 times over. So, wow, guys, that was a great read. I hope you, the How to Tarots do tend to run a little bit longer, but I hope you enjoyed. Please join me again for Saturday. We're going to do the weekly energy card reading. If you want, we can start adding some extra stuff to that to make it more fun as well. I enjoyed incorporating the dice, so we'll always, you know, spice it up a little. But I hope to catch you then, and I'll see you later. Bye.